You ready for this?
Hey, bro, don't do it. Dude, don't do it, bro. We can talk it out.
No, we f***ing can't.
Why can't we talk it out?
This bitch cheated on me so in school.
Alright, that guy. Do it for your daughter. Do it for your daughter.
Pop it, dude. You ready for this?
I don't want to shoot you. Stop.
You don't want to shoot me, then why the f*** are you doing this?
Because you have scissors, bro. We came here just to check up on you.
It's done. This is what you f***ing wanted. I have tried so goddamn hard. I gave you f***ing everything. And this is a f***ing repay.
Come on, Max, we can talk this out, bro.
No, we can't.
Come on.
We can't talk shit out.
Max.
Have you shot anybody before? Today's gonna be the day, guys.
No, it's not.
Stop, please, Max.
This is how it ends. This is what you wanted. My fate is sealed. I am rock bottom. There's absolutely nothing you're gonna do here.
Please don't
Wait.
hurt him.
Stop, dude.
Stop.
Shots fired. The suspect's down.
Welcome back, everybody. As many of you guys know, I'm a law enforcement trainer and instructor. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, use of force, advanced criminal investigations, etc. And in this video, we see a very distraught man who's alleging his significant other was cheating on him, and he is making threats of harm, self-harm, harm to the alleged partner, harm to law enforcement, and ultimately, law enforcement utilizing their de-escalation skills, utilizing intermediate weapons like a taser, were not able to take him to custody, and so, the suspect kind of forced her hand into lethal force. Now, with that being said, a lot of people are going to feel some kind of way about it. Some people say, hey, it's justified. Other people say it's not. It's just scissors, or it's just the edge weapon. They have knives and body armor. And then some people don't know how to feel. So I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to give you the case law as it is. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and start with understanding what use of force case law is. So we have Graham v. Connor. And that's really the Graham v. Connor 1989 is really one of the standards for use of force, and it's called the reasonability standard. The Supreme Court established that law enforcement should use a reasonable objective standard for utilizing force. And so the standard asks whether a reasonable officer in the same situation would use the same amount of force. And so when we look at that, we really have to understand, well, when can we use, defensive use of force? And so here's a screenshot. This is something from Oklahoma, just giving you Oklahoma as an example. It's very well established that people can use defensive use of force to prevent bodily injury, death, or serious bodily harm. And so the next question we have to ask ourselves is, naturally, well, can a knife cause serious bodily harm, death or serious bodily harm? And so that's where we'll start to answer this question here. So as you can see from your screen here, this is a screenshot from a concealed carry course that I teach. And one of the things I like to do in that course is do what's called a knife lab. And the reason for that is because I want you to be able to use that as part of your training experience when you come to my course. Because edge weapons are, based upon my training experience, they can be very deadly. And so looking at this, what we do is we take various items and we stab them essentially. So you see a watermelon there, a pumpkin there. And the reason why we do that is because, again, after this course, you'll be able to get on a stand and you'll be able to talk about your training experience to include the knife lab. And so here is some of the training that I experienced, that if I get on the stand, this is kind of an immediate template that I'll go to, right? So why? You would ask me, well, what about your training experience has led you to believe that knives can be deadly and cause serious or cause serious bodily harm? And I'm going to say, well, they're ergonomically designed. So they're designed ergonomically and with the intent to cut, slice, carve, chop, maim. They're used every day. They're used every day to cut through flesh, muscle, tendon, and other composite materials. I know a watermelon rind, based on my training experience, is approximately 28 millimeters thick. That's 7 times thicker than human skin. I know a pumpkin rind is 30 millimeters thick. That's more than 7 times thicker than human skin. I've been a hunter since the age of 12. I field dressed animals with knives. I've been in the military since I was 17, used knives to cut composite material. As a police officer, I've used knives to cut composite materials, and I've witnessed bodily trauma. Homesteader farmer, again, we used it to field dress animals, used to cut composite materials. I do butcher block as a hobby, so I'm very familiar with cutting through flesh, muscle, and tendons of animals. And then I know, based on my training experience, that knives are the second most common weapon used in homicides in the United States after firearms. And so I know emphatically that that's one of the things that makes an edged weapon have the capacity for serious bodily harm and death. And so we look at that. And then the next thing that we'd have to look at is the use of force triangle. So now that we've established that knives can cause serious bodily harm, we need to look at the use of force triangle and then ultimately the force continuum. So for the use of force triangle, you need what's called intent, means, and opportunity. So the triangle, in order to use deadly force, you have to have all three elements there. So the intent, in the video, we can clearly see that his intent was to harm himself, was to harm his partner, who he thought was cheating on him or alleged to be cheating on him, and then law enforcement. He made that clear verbally. And with his behavior and mannerisms, the means, well, he has an edged weapon in his hands, he has a scissor in his hands, and then third, the opportunity, even after they tried to use, an intermediate weapon, it still wasn't able to hold him back from charging law enforcement. So based upon the use of force triangle, all the elements were met that were needed at the satisfactory level to use lethal use of force. So now with that, let's go ahead and look at the use of force continuum. So here you can see the use of force continuum. And so this is this is a guiding chart that we can look at that really explains the flow of use of force. And it's always important to note, you can go from a 1 to a 6 just like that. So this is not something that has to be followed like a flow chart, but again, it shows you the levels as you go forward and backwards as it relates to use of force. And so what we see is the officers are utilizing 1 and 2 very well. Again, a lot of de-escalation tactics that were used, but they were doing that while maintaining a use of force, deadly use of force option with that firearm out. Now, the reason why this is important is because the officer was operating in the 1 and 2 and had the 6 lethal coverage. And then we even saw that lethal coverage even with the taser, and that's a very common practice. If you are wanting to utilize a taser, I'm a high proponent of maintaining a lethal coverage because that allows you to have the ability to safely implement lower threshold uses of force options while still making sure that people are safe and you're not giving up. You're not utilizing bad tactics. So you can utilize good tactics while trying to de-escalate down. A lot of people think that doesn't work, that it doesn't work that way, but it absolutely does. And so again, the officers were very clear on their commands, they were doing their darnest to de-escalate, and they even said, I don't want to shoot you, right? So officers doing everything they can, and then even taking that 6 down to a 5, trying to utilize the taser, trying to use basically every option that they could while keeping themselves safe and not resorting immediately to deadly use of force. So when we look at this in totality, when I look at this in totality as a use of force instructor, I think the officers handled a really horrible situation in the best way that they can. Based upon what we see here, this being my only totality of circumstances, again, it was a justifiable use of force. Now, with that being said, some people are going to say, well, I wouldn't have done it. And that's what's great about your discretion, right? Having discretion to be able to choose whether or not you're going to use force. So again, in this regard, and a lot of people are like, well, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Cool. I'm not here to argue that. I'm just here to explain that if we were to take this into a hearing and we were to try to adjudicate it, I believe with a very high likelihood, based upon my training experience, again, have a law degree, use of force instructor, advanced criminal investigator. I, investigate uses of force, officer-involved shootings. Based on what we have here, I don't see why this wouldn't be a justifiable use of force. So there you have it. Hope this video was helpful for you guys. But most importantly, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about the knife lab that I do. Tell me what you think about edge weapons being introduced into law enforcement contacts, or just contacts as a concealed carry permit holder, right? If you are this person, you're not law enforcement, but you find yourself in this segue where you have somebody that's armed with a knife that's threatening violence to you. What are your feelings about it? Again, you can utilize the same case laws, you can utilize the same use of force continuums and use of force triangle options as a concealed carry permit holder. So as a concealed carry permit holder, being put in this situation, does your mind change on that? Curious to know what you have to say in the comment section below. As always, guys, long live the Republic.